and I'm here with my co-host Jazz, aka DJ. What if Jazz was not here? How would the show go without him? Oh no, Jazz left. All right, I guess we have the answer to that question.
Good luck.
uh, listen, Jazz. Are you ready? Come back. Listen, are you ready to cover Captain Carter and the Multiverse of Madness? I mean, sorry. What if season two?
you know, I really do hate the name Multiverse of Madness because that movie was not a multiverse of madness. It's what I've always called it, the triverse of sadness. Like it
That is
was so
true.
bad.
That is true. Well, listen, guys, I know what's not making us sad, and that's our guest. So we have to welcome back our guest for the third time, Marmar. What's going on? How are you?
Hi, Neeps. Hi, Jazz. Great to be back again to talk about What If. So,
You look
Happy New Year.
amazing. Well, you got a you're in Hawaii at the moment. We're so
Yes, I
jealous,
am.
and you got an amazing tan. Look at you. You look fabulous.
Yeah, I'm
Some good
jealous.
lighting. Better
True.
lighting than I usually have. So, thank you.
That's awesome. Well, you were on our podcast when we went over elementals. You were on our podcast when we went over everything, everywhere, all at once. And now we got you for What If. And I'm really excited because I saw some of your TikToks and I'm like, ooh, she's got opinions. Let's have her on the show. I love it when people have
I
opinions,
do.
especially when they are against the grain. I feel like they're interesting and we get to explore them. So I would like to just, start off with just going around the room. What are your thoughts without spoilers of this season of What If compared to last season? Marmar, why don't you go first? You're our guest.
Thank you. Wow. Where do I begin? There were a few that I really enjoyed. But I would say I think What If season one still is a little bit better than season two for me for a few reasons that we'll probably get into throughout the show. But overall, I think some of the stories that they chose to kind of explore were very interesting. A lot of them, in my opinion, felt like rehashings of just original movies that we have already seen in the MCU, but then kind of just like replacing characters and then putting them in and then say, okay, what if that happened? So some are good, some were like, okay, like we've kind of seen this a little bit before. I did wish that they would try to venture out and try to ask a little bit more provocative questions or just more questions that will be like, okay, like truly what could happen if that scenario did happen and played out instead of what we have gotten in that sacred timeline or the original MCU timeline. But
Mm-hmm.
overall, it was still good. It was so enjoyable. It was nice to see episodes every single day. I was out of the country
Yeah.
when all the What If season two episodes were dropping, so it was trying to find that time difference and then trying to figure out when those new episodes were dropping. But it was a cool format that Disney Plus had with the daily drop. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see if they'll implement that in the
I
future.
actually really like that. Like drop one day. It's like every day is like a special gift you're getting. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's something to look forward to every day. Even though like I didn't enjoy all the episodes, but there's still something to look forward to. Jazz, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the season started off okay. In the middle, it got worse. But then toward the end, they kind of got it together. And I was like, oh, this is amazing in some places. And so,
Mhm.
Overall, yeah, it was an okay season. The daily drops, I actually did not watch them on time. So I didn't even realize that was happening. But that's awesome that they did that. But yeah, let's talk more about the episodes when we get into it.
All right. Well, for me, like it's no secret. What If is like one of my least favorite shows. Like
Okay.
I don't really like this show.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I feel like it's not for me, it's for other people. My biggest thing with this show is that I don't get the tone and the humor. It just doesn't work for me. It's like
Mhm.
not the MCU, but it's also not a cartoon, right? So like I watch Earth Mightiest Heroes and I watch like Guardians of the Galaxy cartoon, and like they have a certain type of humor there. Then the MCU has their type of humor, and then What If has its own, and it just the tone doesn't work. And some of the humor I don't find funny. I don't think some of the jokes work. They're just like thrown in there because they have nothing for the person to say. And you
Mhm.
see it really badly in the Tony Stark episode where it's just one quip after another, which like majority of them don't need to be there. And my favorite episode had no jokes. It was nothing that was like, typical, hey, let's add a joke for no reason here. And that was the Kohori episode, which we'll get into. But
Mhm.
I think those are the two reasons why I don't really connect with the show. But if people do, that's great. I'm not knocking it. Not everything is for everybody. So that's where we all stand on this show. So I'm glad we're going to have a little bit of, we'll see what happens. We'll see what's big. Though the first episode was Nebula joins the Nova Corp. What if Nebula joins the Nova Corp? Now, this one wasn't bad. I actually really liked this one because it has this cool noir feeling. It was a mystery. I was kind of digging this. And it was really, really cool. And they brought in some side characters for comedic relief. I didn't think they were too bad. I was like, okay, this was an okay episode for me. I thought it was decent. And I really liked the ending. I really liked Nebula. I feel like Karen Gillian's voice acting, I think she was a voice actress. I think it was really, really good. What are your thoughts about this episode, Marmar?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said about the first episode. I like the crime noir. I like a good whodunit crime noir kind of genre. So I think I like that. What if, at least the season 2, one of the positives I had was that it was at least trying to explore, dip its toes into kind of more specific genre kind of storytelling. And so I hope they do more of that in the future. Whatever, if it's a show or a movie. But I guess if you're a Nebula fan, at least I always like Nebula's character. She's a very tragic character, but I think there's a lot of nuance and a lot of story there still to tell about Nebula. And I'm glad they took that opportunity to kind of give Nebula that spotlight and give her a story that is not as sad. So it's nice to see her kind of have her own moment in the multiverse.
Yeah, not as sad, but still kind of sad. We'll see. Jazz, what are your thoughts about Nebula?
So what I really liked about this episode was that Nebula had a mom figure finally. And seeing that relationship grow, showing how she could blossom if she had the right support, aka just not Thanos. She could have been something amazing, even in the MCU. And this was a fantastic way to start off a season. I know some people are saying, oh, it's mid. Even I said that initially, but this specific episode was great.
Yeah, that is so funny. I never thought about Nebula having a mother figure. Are you saying that Daddy Thanos isn't enough for them?
You want me to answer that question? Yeah, absolutely. He's not
just because your dad is pro genocide. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, you really tortured her for her whole life, replacing her with mechanical parts or whatever. Come on, man.
What father hadn't compared their children to each other and made them fight it out?
That seemed like a recurring theme in this season. So
yeah, exactly.
Dealing with the dads.
No, yeah, I agree. I that's why this episode worked for me, because as you see of some of the other, it was a completely different tone. And I like that about this one. Hey, Toyin's in the comments. Welcome, Toyin. We are talking about What If Season 2. Feel free to drop your comments in TikTok, Instagram, and on YouTube if you like. All right. So the next one is What If Peter Quill fights the Avengers, I believe. Again, this is what a typical What If episode kind of reminds me of. And while I do like Peter Quill, I like seeing Hope and Peter as kids. This one really didn't do much for me. It was cool to see the Winter Soldier with this team that you wouldn't normally see. Captain Marvel was a big surprise. I didn't see her being in here. I thought that was really cool. Also, we didn't mention, but Jude Law's character from Captain Marvel was also in the Nebula thing. That was another one. So I like seeing characters I don't expect to see. I think that's a lot of fun. Like Howard the Duck and stuff. And I know they're using Groot because they don't have to pay anybody, because he just says one word. It's just pre-recorded. But yes, what do you guys think of the Peter Quill episode, Marmar?
Yeah, these are to my earlier point of these are one of the episodes where it just felt like a rehashing. They were kind of just okay, let's just take the first Avengers and then just replace Loki with Peter Quill, and then instead of the OG Avengers. I think one thing I liked about it, at least, was that has trying to assemble what who could be in the Avengers in that time period, because it was in the 1980s when Peter Quill was a child. So it was nice to see a lot of the older superheroes who kind of were the mentors or the neglected parents kind of teaming up. to kind of see how their dynamic could work in that time period and in those situations. Like obviously, like we had T'Chaka, we had well, God, kind of Hope's dad, Hank. Yeah, we had obviously Peggy Carter, Howard
Winter
Stark.
Soldier.
So it was interesting to see them together. And then Winter's like Bucky, I totally forgot that he's just around, not aging really. So it
was Captain Carter in this one too, or no?
It was just Peggy.
Just Peggy. Okay.
Yeah.
Damn, she's in everything, whether she's Peggy or Captain Carter. Like they really, really are pushing her like crazy. And
I don't know why, but yeah.
I feel like it's having the negative effect that they want. I feel like a lot of people are not connecting with the character. But we'll get to that bridge when we get to it. Jazz, what are your thoughts about the Peter Quill episode?
I mean, Marmar just said it the best. This episode wasn't that great. Like, just the whole premise of this episode, where you have Ego's plan, and like how quickly everything moved, how quickly everything shifted. I'm like, none of this makes sense. Like, this is bad. I'm very glad this is one of the shorter episodes because I just could not wait to get through it. Like, it was not good.
Yeah, there was nothing about it that I really like. I did like Howard and Winter Soldier talking on the phone a little bit, and I was like, "This motherfucker's gonna kill you." By the way, I hope you know this. But I think that's the only part that I really thought was interesting, where you got to see that Bucky is already trying to deprogram himself a little bit in the 80s. But yeah, like it does just feel like more of the same. Like it didn't give us anything special. We got to see some characters who we normally would not have seen. It was cool to see T'Chaka. It was cool to see Hank, but there's nothing to write home about. I didn't really love this episode either.
Also, if I mentioned, I know Thor also was in like another 1,000-year-old like hero, but also when he was saying, "Oh yeah, all of like Asgard's like over because of this kid," and I'm like, really? That kid really just obliterated the 9 realms like that? Okay.
Yeah. And like he didn't even mean to. He just like was going places, and the whole thing was like, oh, he was misunderstood, and he didn't really want to kill anything or blow planets. And I'm like, well, then how did he blow up those other planets where he came from? I was like, what's really, really going on here? I don't know. And like we got this amazing story of like how Peter Quill learns who his dad is, and he's so happy, and then he like conquers his like I don't know what it was, but his like imagination of what he had of his dad, his expectations. And when he found out that his mom killed his mom, like it was so well done in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And this is kind of just like a wish version of that. Like it didn't give us something different. You're just giving us a watered down version of something we already have. We already have the Avengers. We already have Guardians of the Galaxy 2. You smashed the two together and gave us a Walmart version of it. That's really what this episode is.
Agreed.
So I'm wearing my haterade hat today. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine because like you should hate this episode. It's just bad.
It's valid.
Well, speaking of hating episodes,
okay, yes, fair.
I hated the next one too. I don't like it. like I'm sorry, but Die Hard's been done to death. It's been done by Community and Brooklyn Nine-Nine and just every other sitcom. Like it's been done to death, and we did not need a Marvel's Die Hard. I'm sorry. Well, what are your thoughts about this episode, Marmar?
I agree. I do like. I've always liked Happy to a certain extent. I think he's just kind of a jolly old man who just kind of just there, like helps whenever he needs to be, and it's useful to the plot when he needs to be. Yeah. So it was nice that he had his own like, his like John McClane Die Hard moment. It was interesting that they actually like caught him. And I haven't read the comics, so I could be wrong. I know I think he is. I know he took that serum and then he became whatever. I think he is that in the comics. I don't know if he is like that.
I didn't know that.
He might be. I might. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But
there's so many comics. But there might be one where it is. Toy Insist, the weakest episode. Yeah, I would agree. But like, it's a Christmas episode. I'm not gonna hate on it. I'm like, you know what? Like, some people might like it. Everyone loves A Christmas Story, I guess. I'm not one of those people, so I thought maybe that's why. But if people who love Christmas stories are telling us it's not good, then it's probably really bad.
I will also say, it kind of reminded me. It felt like a fan fiction kind of like story in terms of like someone kind of probably just thought, oh, what would happen if all the Avengers were just like celebrating Christmas, and then
Yeah.
just like seeing kind of what could transpire. It felt like kind of like those kind of episodes where it just felt like wholesome.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like, yeah, like just kind of no thoughts, just vibes, kind of like Avengers just chilling.
Yeah.
For the holidays. So that was nice in that regard, but nothing much more after that.
Yeah, I mean, I like Kat Dennings. I like some of the people
Mhm.
that they have, but like this is one of the episodes where I think the jokes were just really bad. Even Justin Hammer just like had like
Oh,
one
yeah.
joke after another, and I'm like, if you're gonna give a character jokes, like give them good ones. Like Robert Downey Jr. had some good lines in his movies because he's a witty person. Some of them were his own ideas that he came up with on the spot, right? In fact, like the entire court case with Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2 was pretty much all ad-libbed, right? According
wow.
to the MCU reign of the MCU book. And like he has the chops to do it. But they didn't let him. It's I don't know who wrote these lines, but they were not funny. I was just not connecting to them. I did like seeing what all the other Avengers were doing during Christmas. I thought that was funny. Where like Hawkeye was buying a toy, and I think somebody was Tony was Santa, and I don't know, Steve was an elf. Like that was funny, sure. Like that gag got me. I thought that was pretty funny, but the jokes and the lines weren't that great. And then yeah, I don't know. This was the weakest episode. I'm sorry.
I
Jazz.
couldn't get over the voice actor for Tony Stark.
Yeah.
You know it's different. You know it's not Robert Downey Jr. Like it just didn't hit for me. And then, this episode, I know it's supposed to be an episode about Happy, but really the only one who I actually liked in this episode was Darcy. Like,
Yeah.
she was the one who got shit done. She was the one, just making sure everything was going okay. And of course, everything was wrong.
Yeah.
But like, everybody else was just like, vibing and not doing anything. Darcy's here stressed. Like, it was just a mishmash. And Darcy, she was the only silver lining to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, agreed with like everybody else. This is probably the weakest episode of the entire season.
You know what they need to do? They need to give Maria Hill her episode. But poor girl is dead now. She never got her flowers. She's never had any kind of like significant role in any of the movies. Like Happy's definitely been in like 4 or 5 movies. Freaking Kat Dennings been in like quite a few things with WandaVision. Like Maria Hill shows up for like 1 second and is like out. Give her her flowers. Give her something. We saw this amazing character that people connected with. People loved the actress, and they never did anything with her. That's so sad.
Yes, we love Robin.
Just bring her to the mall. Like How I Met Your Mother.
Yo, if they did a what if episode of her in a mall, right? And she was like somehow in an alternate timeline where she met Robin Sparkles. I would think that would be one of the best episodes ever made for What If.
That would be so funny. I love that song.
Give me that. That would be amazing.
That's a multiverse of madness right there.
That's a multiverse
exactly.
of madness. Robin Shaprosky and Maria Hill in like one universe, like that's what I want to see. Give me that What If.
Yeah.
Come on, Jessica. Come on, Tori. Let's go to the mall. You won't be sorry. Like, I love that. That's a banger.
You know the words.
I know the whole words. I know all of it. It's so bad.
All right, we'll do a sing along after this episode.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not liking Tony Stark's voice, the next episode, we get a whole lot of Tony Stark. Now, I'm not mad at this episode because originally this episode was from season 1 and it was supposed to be about Gamora. And for some reason, they re-edited it to make it about Tony. And here's the thing with Tony voice actor. Like, I actually like him because he is Tony Stark in the Earth's Mightiest Heroes TV show cartoon. But in that show, he gets to be his own version of Tony Stark. In this, he's trying to be the Robert Downey version of Tony Stark, and it's not hitting. And in the cartoon, he just does his own thing, which worked. And I don't know, it's a multiverse. It's a different universe. You can make your own version of Tony Stark. You don't have to follow the MCU version. But I think that's why it's not hitting.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like they're gonna go back to what worked in the MCU, and they're gonna try and recreate it. And it's like, no, he
Mhm.
died an honorable death. Like, let Robert Downey Jr. be. Don't touch his character.
Yeah.
You know, we can move on now. And yes, what's his name? Shoot, I'm blanking on this voice actor's name. It's Wingert, Mick Wingert. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, you're right. In the other cartoon, he's fantastic, like being himself, right? I want to see more of that. I don't want people trying to be Robert Downey Jr. Like,
Yeah.
the expectations are going to fall flat. I'm sorry. And you know, be yourself, be your own character, have your own quips and mannerisms. I will enjoy that. Like, I can respect that. But when you try to be something else and it doesn't work, then you're going to end up with all this hate, which you rightfully deserve.
Yeah. No, totally, totally. So for me, this episode was the most cartoonish of the bunch. It felt like Wacky Racers from Hanna-Barbera or something, where they're like doing this kind of race, or like Wreck-It Ralph, where they're having like the big race at the end, and there's like the Candyland King, and that's the Grand Emperor. Like that's what it felt like to me. So I was like, all right, this one feels like a cartoon, and like the Grand Emperor's like literally melts to the ground in like a puddle, and I'm like, all right, this is like a kid's cartoon. This is like a Hanna-Barbera kind of cartoon. And I'm just like, oh, I don't understand the tone they're going for here. Are they going for MCU? Are they going for Earth Mightiest Avengers? Or are they going for like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon? Because like every episode is like all over the place. Like one's a noir story, one's a story about like a serious subject like colonization, and then some is like trying to be like the MCU, and then one is like a racing cartoon. So I feel like the show is a little bit all over the place. What are your thoughts about this episode, Marmar?
Yeah, this episode was definitely the wackiest one yet.
Yeah,
Again, kind of similar to, it felt like Thor Ragnarok, but then again, I mean, that was the whole premise. Like, it's Thor Ragnarok, but it's actually Tony instead of the Hulk landing
yeah,
down, and then a lot of that kind of, yeah, it's still beat for beat Thor Ragnarok when you get to Sakaar.
yeah,
I did like, it was interesting to see Gamora and Tony interact
yeah.
because they have never interacted. So it was
Oh,
nice that
yeah,
at
that's
least
right.
like they can connect on their daddy issues with each other. Like Tony's
Yeah,
like, I had a shitty dad.
yeah,
Sounds like you do too. So we should team up and take on your dad.
yeah, that's true. Though I think Gamora might have him beat on Shitty
Oh yeah,
Dad.
yeah, 1000%.
Yeah, Jazz, what are your thoughts about this episode?
So this episode I actually liked initially until
Mm,
we were on the Agents of Fandom podcast,
yeah,
and it was brought up just how like this is another one of those exact rehashed episodes that didn't really do anything to explore what if, right?
yeah,
This is just another one of those episodes where you throw a character in a different place and the end result is almost the exact same as it was, and it's just another disappointment.
mm,
Now, as for the wackiness of the episode, I actually did enjoy that. Um,
yeah. That's fine.
yeah, like if they're exploring this, that's cool. Like I'm for that. They want to explore different genres. That's cool. It's all over the place. Yes, but like that's what it's supposed to be. So
Sure.
going in with that was fine for me. But where this episode really falls short is the story. It
Mm,
just does not do anything significant, right? Like for example, the next episode we're gonna talk about, right? That was so good and so significant. This episode, or sorry, 2 episodes from now,
mm.
this episode again is just like another thing they did just to try and hit the nostalgia button and print money, and it just did not work for me.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get it. Well, speaking of nostalgia, let's go to our favorite 1940s hero for which is Captain Carter. So
Again,
this, yeah, she come well first was Peggy, and like all of season one was Peggy, and Multiverse of Madness was Peggy, and then also she had her own 2-season TV show. She has the most screen time of any non-Avenger in the MCU. Like she has 2 seasons of a show. She's been in so many cameos. She was in so many movies. She had her 10 minutes in what do you call it? Multiverse of Madness, and she has so many like screen times in these cartoons. like she has got a chokehold on Marvel. Like she must know where the bodies are buried. Because and like listen, if you like Captain Carter, that's great. That's fine. No hate. There are some
I
valid
like
reasons why
Captain Carter.
really. So like there's some valid reasons why people I
That's
don't
what you're just like, really? Okay.
I don't know. Here's why I don't like Captain Carter. They don't let her be her own person. All they do is give her Captain
Yes.
America lines, and all she does is repeat Steve's line. She's not Captain Carter. She's just freaking Steve Rogers in a Union jacket. That's
Yeah.
what that's Marmar.
That's really it. Right, yeah. No,
Yeah.
like shoot, I just lost my train of thought because like this comments here which says, we didn't need more Peggy, honestly, but I do love her. And so like Marmar, go ahead while I recollect my thoughts.
Sure.
So
My
yeah,
rant.
I do agree with that. I think I think now thinking that's a big part is that I think Peggy is not her own character because she's basically just she's basically replacing Steve Rogers when we already have Sam Wilson as Captain America, and somehow they're pushing Peggy Carter as Captain Carter more than Sam Wilson as Captain America. And I think that's like from what I've seen, that's a big part of I think why the overexposure of Captain Carter is kind of off-putting for a lot of people. And I mean, Peggy Carter in general, she's fine again, and kind of as a supporting person to Steve Rogers' storyline. And I think if she wanted to do a power up and be that superhero, that's fine. But it's just being Captain America. It's just being Steve Rogers, and then that's not, I think, fair for someone like her when she probably has her own story. And I mean, we saw it probably through Agent Carter and all of that. So I think just the overexposure of her and What If season 2 also was just like, I think let's just let the woman lay to rest. Like it's just I think like there's so many more fascinating characters that the MCU has introduced, and yet we're still on Peggy and Steve.
Yeah.
Like I like they had their happy ending in Endgame. Like
yes,
much to a lot of people is like, I'm sure that's still a controversial thing to talk about that ending, but like they got together. Like why are we still like making it sound like they have a timeless tragic love story when we saw them together in one universe? That's just me. I think it's just overexposure.
Yeah.
And we need to move on.
Yeah, I get it. It kind of cheapens that happy ending. So in this story, like again, like it's really just like the Winter Soldier, but you replace the Winter Soldier with Steve, and I'm just like, okay, it's more of the same. And like the only thing I thought was interesting, I think Black Widow was good in this. I thought she was interesting. Seeing Bucky as what you call it, a world leader, I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it was more of the same. Did not love it, but I didn't mind seeing some more Black Widow in this one. I thought she is a pretty decent character. I think the voice actress for Black Widow does a great job of like making Black Widow her own, which is what the Tony Stark of that this What If universe should be doing. So really like that.
Let me tell you one thing though about this episode, or actually just Captain Carter in general. It's that I agree that we've seen so much of her and we're tired of her, but it's only because we haven't seen the real Captain Carter. Like, I want a What If episode that is Captain Carter that isn't Captain America.
Yeah.
Right? Give me that. That would be something really cool to watch, actually.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think Marvel is definitely screwing that up.
Yeah. Well, speaking of screwing it up, I definitely agree with Marmar where like it is off-putting to see Captain Carter being pushed on us when we haven't gotten Sam Wilson as our Captain America in forever in any kind of, because they can give us a what if like episode with Sam if they wanted to. They choose not to, and his movie is now like tainted with all this like issues with Sabra and like all of this stuff that's happening. Not only are they like promoting a what you call it Masood agent, a character that's based on a Masood agent, but there's also a lot of anti-Semitic stuff with going on with that movie where it used to be called New World Order, and there's a lot of other things that they were having. There's just a lot of like controversy surrounding that movie, and I feel like they're just putting Sam in such like a bad place, and they're not doing him justice. And the fact that like they could have put him in anything they wanted until now. He could have been in an end credit scene in any of the movies that came out, and people would have gone crazy for it, right? But they chose not to because they're saving it for the movie, which it's fine. But I don't know. after a while, you're kind of just start looking at them sideways. It's basically what happens. All right, so I swear to you, we're not gonna shit on this show the whole episode. The good episodes are coming. I promise you, we're not just here to. We're not one of the people that just hates on the MCU just to hate on them. But what if Kahori reshapes the world? Love this episode. Absolutely love it. The animation style, the way they explain her
Colors.
powers, like how her powers work,
Mhm.
speaking in the Mohawk language, like beautiful episode. They spent time on this episode. They took years to do it. And it goes to go to you like when Marvel and Disney actually care about something, they will put out quality work. They will reach out to people to make sure the right people are telling these stories. I was like, holy shit, this is good. And there was no like cheap humor into it because it didn't
Mhm.
work with the tone of the episode because the episode was very serious. It was about like a genocide. And because of that, like they made sure not to just like throw in these little quips and humors in places where they don't belong to cut the tension. And that's why this episode really, really worked for me. Marmar, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree. It's probably my favorite episode of the season. Um, I think the introduction of a very new character like Kahori was it was awesome. Like I wish we got to like a whole movie of her too. Like I'm glad that they took time to like they filled out those whatever like 30 minutes of this episode, and it was just great from beginning to end. And Devery Jacobs as Kahori. I know she had interest if they ever do a live action, and I hope they do explore a live action of Kahori. And I think they handled the subject matter really well. It was a good balance in tone. It was serious when it needed to be. It was humorous and more heartfelt and when it needed to be. And it was just incredible to see that her powers and then how she used it for good, and then was still in a way that was not very incredibly violent, but like still very just.
Yeah.
And the ending when she just went to the queen herself was just like I'm just and we're stopping this now.
That
so
is
I actually
amazing.
love the queen. She was voiced by Carolina Ravisa, and so Carolina Ravasa, and so if any of you have ever played Overwatch, she's the voice of Sombra in the game, and so I thought she was just perfect for this role. This whole episode was just fantastic. I really can't add much more to it. Like just everything from the tattoos, the colors, like every little detail. I feel like they went above and beyond, and then maybe that's why the last few episodes were bad, was because they spent so much time and budget on this one episode. This episode was the reason I actually, well, truth be told, I haven't watched episode 7, 8, 9, but this episode is, in my opinion, the reason this whole season was saved. Like, if it wasn't for episode 6, I would have said this is probably the worst Marvel season of a show of all time.
Oh yeah, I would say that like somebody needs to make sure Kahori has good health insurance because her back must hurt from carrying this season.
I also love that the beginning of the episode was because it was the Tesseract, and then it was like Odin didn't have he couldn't accomplish his mission to colonize the 9 realms, and then it ended on Kahori just ending colonization on Earth. And stopping that. So it was nice, like that theme carried through from beginning to end.
I never thought of that Odin as like conquering the 9 realms is really just colonization on a space level.
It really is.
Yeah. Colonizer, like full stop.
Yeah. Basically, like he colonized Earth and was like, Thor, this will be your dominion. You protect it.
Midgard and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Oh man, no, this was a really, really good episode. And speaking of Odin, the next episode is Odin and Hela get into a fight, and he casts her out the way he casts out Thor in the first Thor movie. So again, it's a little rehashing of like Thor 1, but it was interesting.
Wait. Should I dip because I haven't seen episode 7, 8, 9 yet?
It's up to you.
Yeah, let me do that because I don't want to fully spoil it. Like, wait, are they good?
They're okay. I mean, the last 2 are pretty good. I mean, the last one is definitely good.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. Jazz is leaving
Yeah,
Jazz,
no, because like I'm sorry, haven't had time to watch
yeah,
the rest
Oh,
of
you're
it.
totally fine.
yeah.
Yeah,
You only
but
had a month. I'm sorry. It's fine.
That's true.
it's been a busy time. But
I'm kidding.
episode 6 was great.
Jazz has been doing good work. Jazz has been working with a lot of political organizations to
Nice.
put out letters for the ceasefire. So Jazz has been doing
Amazing.
really hard, tough work, creating a pack, doing a lot of good work. So we don't blame you, Jazz. We love
I'll be
you.
back soon, I
Incredible.
promise.
All right, Marmar, you are the new co-host of the show.
Okay.
You've been promoted.
Woohoo!
All right. So this one says, "What if Hela found the 10 rings?" Technically, she never found them. She just found
She
what you
didn't
call
find
them.
them, but she
Yeah,
saw them. What if
she
she
saw
saw the
them.
10 ring?
Exactly. What if she saw the 10 rings?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I
Jazz
came
is
back
screaming.
just because I was hitting X. You said that. I'm like, what?
Yeah, so she never found the 10 rings. Basically, she just like runs into Shang-Chi's dad and,
Yep.
and she's kind of vibing. Shang-Chi's dad was like, yo, let me holla at this white lady real
I
quick.
know that was so funny though.
I,
He was like
I,
trying to shoot a shot with Hela.
yeah, I thought it was really, really funny. And then instead she starts vibing with his wife instead, right? I was like, oh, that's
That was
very
a twist of
interesting.
events. I was like, I'm not mad
Yeah.
at this.
Yeah. So they treat her helmet the same way they treat the Thor's hammer, basically. So no one can lift it unless like they are worthy.
Mhm.
So Hela isn't worthy because she's too much of like a bloodthirsty warrior. So she has to learn mercy. So she ends up going to the dimension where Shang-Chi's mom is from, I believe.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, hello. And she ends up learning from Shang-Chi's mom, and she learns patience, she learns mercy, and she goes back out there to fight her dad because her dad realized that she wasn't in the 9 realms, so he came to avenge her. And then he's like, oh, you have this weapon, you shouldn't really have that. Let someone more sophisticated take that from you because you can't be trusted with these weapons. Very colonizer mindset, right? I thought
Yep.
that was pretty interesting. And then they have like a fight scene. It was really cool to see how the 10 rings work and how they use them together. I thought that was really cool, but I really wanted to see Hela use the 10 rings. She didn't use them at all. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts about this episode, Marmar?
Yeah, I mean, to the point, yeah, it was very rehashing of the first Thor movie, except it's landing and to meet Wenwu. Yeah, it was really interesting. I think it was interesting to see Hela get a redemption arc. I personally have always I love Hela in Thor Ragnarok, and I actually just loved how unapologetically bad she was. And
Yeah,
I mean, too, like she was very valid in a lot of like what she did because her father literally banished her after literally making her to a tool.
yeah,
And it's a weapon to colonize. And then now he was mad that she was like, I want more power. And he's like, nope, no. And then like banished her. So it was interesting to see Hela like be good. I think personally, I would rather have Hela just be a baddie all the way. But it was nice to see Hela kind of explore that side of her. It felt like a mishmash. It kind of just felt like, okay, let's just bring these two characters together and see what happens. So yeah, I'm glad that. I mean, we didn't even get to see Shang-Chi. Like it was literally just Wenwu and the mom.
Well, I think like the mom and the dad had actually not met, so they never had Shang-Chi.
It wouldn't be into existence anyway. But I'm glad that there was at least in this episode we got like at least one of the characters that we've seen already. Like I think they're trying to hopefully introduce more of the characters that you introduced since 2021. So
we saw Morris though, the faceless butt angel thing. Still don't know what
I forgot about him.
That was really, really funny. But yeah, I did like the fight though. It felt like an anime. The fighting was actually really well done. As Toyin said, I did like I never seen that before. Yeah, I'd never seen Odin in all his like glory fighting. That was really, really cool. So I definitely did like that. Overall, I really liked that.
I like the comparisons of Odin and Wenwu because Wenwu technically they're cut from the same cloth, Wenwu and Odin. And so it's nice to see that Wenwu also was on the good side.
Yeah.
Because in Shang-Chi had to fight his father in the way that Hela has to fight her father.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like Shang-Chi was just down bad for Hela. he was like, "We can reshape the world." She should have
Yeah,
took him
Wenwu
up on
was
that
just
offer.
yeah. It was funny that just Wenwu was just like had that side of him,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Either romantic
being
at
up in his
heart.
game. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I totally get that. Um, even in Shang-Chi, like all he cared about was his wife. That's the reason he did all that and made a
it's true.
mess of like the whole universe. He just wanted to hear his voice, the
Yeah,
voice of his wife. The man's got it
true.
bad. All right, the next episode, another one that came out again. Captain Carter is being featured. She was pulled away into a different dimension by uh the Scarlet Witch, who now has the power to create portals from other dimensions, which is the entire plot of Multiverse of Madness, which makes it even less relevant now. The fact that she could have just like spent a few more years studying and been doing it herself.
True.
Yeah,
Damn.
so that was wild. But yes, it was in like the 1600s,
Yeah.
and it was very much like Robin Hood feels. They were just like in the
Mhm.
fields and doing these kind of like shenanigans. What did you think of this episode?
Yeah, I grew up like I think hearing the King Arthur story, so it's
Yeah,
interesting to see them in a different time.
yeah,
And then yeah, Scarlet Witch being like that Merlin figure, and then like you having like I love that Paul Rudd was in this, like Ant-Man.
yeah.
And then you had Bucky, and then you had Steve Rogers too,
Steve
like just
Rogers,
kind of
yeah.
being that those bandits, like those Robin Hood bandits, where they just steal from the rich and give to the poor.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then you have Thor, and then you have Happy, so, and then I think it was funny that Tony was like the crazy one because he was into science.
Yeah,
That was a nice twist. Like it was nice to see the tables turn there. Um, but yeah, it was decent. Like it was not my favorite episode. But yeah, and
yeah.
again, kind of going to the Steve Peggy like love story, and you're like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Speaking of time, turning the table, I did like the fact that like Captain Carter is supposed to be the person out of time, but in this situation, she
Mhm.
knows more about the future than they do. So she's like using
Yeah,
these words, and Tony's like, "I love this gibberish that you're you're saying."
that was funny.
I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, so at the end of this episode, basically you find out that Steve was actually not from this universe, and
Yeah,
he was causing a tear in that universe. And I was like, great. So to prevent the tear from the universe that is being caused by someone not in that universe being in there, you bring another person from outside that universe. Okay.
yeah,
that
yeah.
that
Okay.
that makes a lot of sense. And then Captain Carter just stays there, and she's like, "All right." And again, and then finally, Doctor Strange finds her at the end, which leads us to our last episode. What if Superior Supreme Strange intervenes? And this one was like the culmination of stuff. So you bring
Yeah,
back all the characters. Kahori comes back, and Kahori kills it in this episode. I love it. Like to see her team up with Captain Carter. I love the ending when they get all the weapons. Everyone throws their weapons at them, and they have all the cool weapons. I
yeah.
thought that was super cool. The zombies be coming back. Cool throwback. I like
I
that.
love
I
you.
I love how this episode had so many throwbacks. It was really really cool.
No, I agree. I think that fight scene was incredibly epic. The fight, like just everyone kind of just going at each other. I made a comment where I was like, "That's like as close to what we're getting for Secret Wars, where every like people from different multiverses are just coming in
Yeah,
and just like beating each other up for no reason." That was cool. It was really cool. And then I think, I mean, Doctor Strange in What If season one was like he was really interesting, but I think at the end of the day, he's just like another simp where he's like, "Oh, I love
yeah,
Christine," and then I do anything, and then everything like just goes to shatters because of his love for Christine. And then it's nice. I guess he's still on it.
yeah,
He's still working on through that goal. Um, but yeah, I'm glad that Kahori came back. And I think it was interesting that Kahori and Captain Carter were a team up. I made a comment in
yeah,
my video a while back where it was like, you would think that she knows of all the colonizers. So I think that's another thing why I guess Captain Carter is like, for me, not my
mhm,
favorite, is that her Union Jack, like just ripping the Union
yeah,
Jack the way that she does, like it's kind of ironic and with what she like fights for, and yet you have this Union Jack up and so proudly on your shield. And
yeah,
so for Kahori, who just fought colonization like not too long ago,
yeah,
coming with Captain Carter in that way was very weird.
yeah.
Um, But other than that, I think it was nice that they kind of bonded still, and then were able to take on Doctor Strange. But yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, Torian just mentioned about Killmonger. I
Mm,
love that Thanos
yeah.
showed up, and you're like, "Oh shit, they're fucked." And then all of a sudden, Thanos disappeared, and you're trying to figure out why. And then here comes Killmonger with all the Infinity Stones, and I was just like, "Yo, this is so good." That was a really really cool moment. So I love that. This was an action filled episode, which
Mhm.
is what I really like. Like as soon as we see Kahori, after that, it's just action after action after action, which was really, really good. And then finally they defeat Doctor Strange by I don't really know how they defeated him. He kind of just like defeated himself, but also
Yeah.
he got like pushed into this portal and they're like, all right, this was his last sacrifice. So he was good all along, and you're like, okay, apparently there's like a devil in him or something. But like,
Mhm.
motherfucker, you did it to yourself. Like it was really your fault. Again, more people causing problems because they're simps, I guess.
Yep. Exactly.
That's it, man. God damn it. But yeah, no, this was a decent season, but like for me, like as you know, like we talked about it, there were hit and misses. There were some hits,
Yeah.
there were some misses. For me, unfortunately, I feel like there were more misses than hits, but overall, I think the whole thing is worth it because we got this new amazing character. And for Marvel to make a brand new character so late in the game and make it
Yeah.
in a cartoon show that's not very popular and have it take off is amazing. It's huge.
Mhm.
And if we don't see Kahori in Secret Wars, I'm going to burn a building down because we need to see her because that's
I need
so
to see
dope.
her at some capacity in like the next year or so.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really cool. That's going to be the next like Captain America picks up the hammer moment when we see her in Secret Wars.
Mhm.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Please let people know where they can find you.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I am more on basically all my social medias. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Letterbox too, and Serialized. Except there's like apparently Letterbox now going to do TV reviews, so we'll see how that happens. So it might just all be on Letterbox, but yeah, that's where you'll find me. Yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely have you back for something or another. I'll keep a close eye on your TikToks, and if you're talking about anything that we're covering, I'll be sure to ask you to come on join. People love you. People like having you. By the way, I don't know if I ever got to tell you, but we had a lot of great people say great things about you during our Everything Everywhere
Oh,
All at Once episode. A lot of
oh,
people
I love that. Thank
loved a
you.
lot of your comments. It was really, really cool. Um,
That's great. Thank you.
and as always, guys, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. We are growing on YouTube. We are over 6,700 followers on YouTube. We are growing every single day. If we hit 10,000, I think we're definitely going to try to hit 10,000 hopefully by the end of
Yeah.
the year, maybe even earlier. And we are going to be able to start making money off this motherfucker. Let's go. All right, guys. Thanks again. And until next time, Salaam.
Woo!